Welcome to the Success in Africa podcast with Dr. Modupe, your weekly dose of leadership vitamins to make you successful in Africa.
Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of the Success in Africa podcast. My name is Dr. Modupe and I am a scholar and practitioner of leadership and organizational development. Simply put, I study what makes people successful. I have been doing this for 3 decades with a particular focus on people in Africa. And in this podcast, I will share lessons, insights, stories about people who have had success in Africa. Why this podcast? Because I am sick and tired of Africa being the poorest continent in the world. We are blessed with the world's greatest resource, that is, young people. Africa will soon have the largest number of working age people in the world. And when these people achieve success, Africa's wealth will be unparalleled. Why? Because I don't know of too many Africans whose goal it is to die poor. And my mission is to support folks like you, the African working age population, to achieve your goal in life. You see, success is simply the achievement of a life goal. That life goal may be creating a business that employs 1,000 people. It may be transforming your country from a poor, underdeveloped country to a wealthy, industrialized country. It may be simply educating your children to university level. Whatever your definition of success is, this podcast was created to help you to achieve it. So if you are intentional about achieving success, I want you to subscribe to this channel. Click the like video, tell your friends about it, send me your comments and feedback. This podcast, by the way, is brought to you courtesy of BCA Leadership, the largest leadership coaching company in Africa. If you have questions that you want me to answer or respond to after watching this video, just go to BCA Online and type in the questions there. That's where I will respond and engage with you one-on-one. In episode 1, I shared about the importance of writing down your vision. In episode 2, we talked about keeping your promises. Episode 3, we talked about feeding your mind. If you haven't watched those episodes, I do encourage you to go back and watch them. Just, when you subscribe to this channel, look for the previous videos and you will see them and you can watch them. Today's nugget of success wisdom builds on these other 3. And it is titled, Serve Yourself Last. Today, we're going to talk about success being serving yourself last. Let me tell you about a gentleman by the name of Stephen Adei. Professor Stephen Adei is widely credited in Ghana with transforming public administration. And he did this mainly during his 9 years at the helm of leadership of the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, otherwise known as GIMPA. Now, GIMPA is a public co-educational university located in Accra, Ghana. It was established in 1961 by the government of Ghana and was initially called the Institute of Public Administration and was intended as a specialist training institute specifically for civil servants in Ghana. Now, Professor Adei headed the institute from the year 2000 to the year 2008. Prior to the time he came on board, Dr. Adei had, served for over a decade as a senior member of staff at the United Nations in many countries outside of Ghana. So he was widely respected, but he did not feel he was successful. Why? Because he desired to make a difference in his home country. That was his definition of success. Well, the opportunity for Dr. Adei came in 1999, when, as a result of a program called the National Institutional Review Program, the government of Ghana selected a number of underperforming public sector institutions to be reformed. GIMPA was among the first batch of institutions. So when Dr. Adei took over at GIMPA, this institution was regarded poorly by the very civil servants that it was supposed to serve. Enrollment was low. The place was overstaffed with 290 support staff and only 30 teaching professionals. I mean, it was a dumping ground for, political people who had friends and family that needed jobs. Staff morale was low, conditions of service were poor, indiscipline was rife. Just the perfect situation for a great leader to make a turnaround. Upon taking over the office, it was clear to Dr. Adei that the institution needed serious reform and discipline. One of the early decisions he made was that he was not going to invest in new carpeting for his office or a new official car for himself. In other words, he was not going to serve himself first. He knew that if he was going to succeed in convincing even a few staff to go along with his vision for GIMPA and the tough decisions that would have to be made to bring the vision to fruition, he had to lead by example by being disciplined himself and serving himself last. He instituted reforms in the teaching processes by enforcing things like the preparation and use of lesson plans by lecturers to ensure that the lectures were delivered to a high standard and they were prepared in advance so that in the events that a lecturer was absent, the lecture would not be cancelled. It could still be delivered by another lecturer. He let go of over 140 staff from the institute, and in order to pay them their full benefits, that's those he had let go, he froze the salaries of the other staff and informed them that his own salary was also frozen. Dr. Adei and his wife, they owned a Mercedes-Benz that he had purchased during his UN days, but he refused to use it during his first few years at GIMPA because he believed it would send the wrong message to the workers during this period of austerity when he needed to show them that he was willing to suffer the same way that they needed to in order to turn the institution around. The hard work, the discipline, it soon started to pay off as enrollment in GIMPA increased. With the increase in quality of the teaching staff and instruction, adjunct lecturers started to pour in from the diaspora as news of this new disciplined leadership spread across the Ghanaian diaspora, and people wanted to support and to be associated with the new GIMPA. The personal integrity that Professor Adei demonstrated also showed up in the utilization of funds. When there were funds that had been acquired, he ensured that they were properly utilized. No chop money. And as a result, commercial banks and financial institutions were ready to provide millions of dollars of loans and grants to GIMPA. And these loans and grants were used to improve the institution's service delivery, resulting in even more or increased enrollment as GIMPA quickly became a desirable place for working professionals in public and private sector to supplement their education and enhance their own management and leadership skills. By 2007, Dr. Adei and his leadership team were able to write to the government of Ghana, formally informing the government that GIMPA would not be in need of government financial support. In other words, no more government subvention. Can you imagine that? A public sector institution informing government that Thank you. We don't need your money anymore. We are now self-sufficient. When Professor Adei left GIMPA at the stipulated retirement age at the end of 2008, the institution not only had a healthy balance sheet, but it also had a healthy image in the community, a vibrant workforce, and a bright future. The discipline of this leader, Professor Adei, and his willingness to serve himself last paid off handsomely in earning the trust of his staff, and they repaid him by giving extra effort and sacrifice to GIMPA to make the vision of transformation become a reality. Professor Adei later used the same skills to create the Ghana Christian Academy, a private school that quickly became and still remains one of the leading private schools in Accra today. He is a respected figure in Ghana who fearlessly criticizes and compliments public servants and elected officials in Ghana because he has earned the respect and reputation in Ghana as the pioneer of excellence in public sector management. Professor Stephen Adei learned the law of delayed gratification. You see, to be successful in Africa, my fellow African, you must learn to delay your gratification by serving yourself last. This is critical for success because many people in Africa are so focused on eating today's meal or chopping money today that we lose sight of the big payday that they could have had if they were just a little bit patient and could resist the immediate gratification opportunity in front of them. If you want to know why many of our communities and countries fail or are poor, it is because our leaders are insisting on serving themselves first. This is a problem because when you do that, you do not leave enough for the rest of the people, and the next in line to you will do the same. And then by the time it gets to the lower people in your organization, there is nothing left to share, leaving them to feel resentment towards you and the organization. And of course, they're not going to be willing to give anything more than the absolute minimum effort. When you are willing to engage with your team in a manner that shows them that you are more concerned about their welfare than yours, that you are willing to sacrifice your comforts, your privileges to ensure that they get theirs, that you are willing to delay your own gratification for the good of the organization, then they will trust you more and they will be willing to do something similar. This enables all of you collectively to achieve much more than would have been possible. Also, when you do this, you actually engender trust in the people who may need to invest their treasure into your vision. External shareholders, potential investors. Investors do not want to invest in somebody who doesn't have any self-discipline or cannot resist bright, shiny objects. If you are believed to be somebody that cannot resist temptation or will default always to self-gratification more than delayed gratification, then you will not be trusted with other people's money. And you need other people's money in order to achieve your vision. You see, Professor Stephen Adei was successful in turning around GIMPA into a profitable and respected institution of higher learning because A, he had a clear long-term vision, B, he kept his promises, C, he fed his mind with new things by learning from other institutions and reading books about other institutions, and D, he served himself last. For those who've been keeping track, I've just recapped episode 1, 2, 3, and 4, the 4 nuggets of wisdom. All are captured within the story of Professor Adei. You see, his discipline paid off handsomely for him in terms of respect of his peers achievement of his vision, and also eventually financially. Yes, in the years following GIMPA, the professor was sought after for many lucrative board positions, both within and outside Ghana. He's the author of many books on management and leadership, and still, despite his advanced age, he's still a sought-after speaker and advisor to many companies. So, my fellow African, remember, it is difficult to achieve success in Africa without self-discipline. If you are not able or willing to say no to some nice things, you will sell your birthright the same way that Esau in the Bible sold his birthright to Jacob for a bowl of pepper soup and the temporary gratification of a hungry stomach. Follow the example of Professor Stephen Adei. Discipline yourself. Serve yourself last, and you will earn the trust and respect of others whose resources you need to make your vision come true to fruition. Serve yourself last. Serve yourself last. Serve yourself last. That's all for today's episode. I look forward to reading your comments and your feedback about this podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video, share it with your friends. Together, we can make Africa an amazing and great continent. One last note. Next month, we'll start a new series on entrepreneurship. The 4 podcasts that I will drop will be specifically for people who want to create something new. New business, new nonprofit, new organization, new part of an organization. That's what entrepreneurs do. I am going to share some nuggets of African wisdom on how to start new things in Africa. See you next week.
Tomorrow belongs to those people who prepare for it today. See you next week.